The country now on alert level 2. It is expected that the economy will start to bounce back even more. But for many companies, work from home orders are still in place and people may not necessarily be comfortable going back into the office on a full-time basis. But what does that mean for co-working businesses whose entire business model is based on people needing to work in an office environment? Our business reporter, Kopano Gumbi, is in Rosebank at one such company. Kopano, good morning to you. So explain this co-working business model. What exactly is it and why does it force people to actually come to the office? Give us an example.
That's right, Tony. We are here in Rosebank at a place called Workshop 17, which is, as you mentioned, a co-working space. Now, co-working offices are designed to create flexibility for people who wouldn't ordinarily want to be in a big corporate, but still need the facilities and require the structure that is associated with working from an office. And so many different businesses, in fact, can rent space in these types of offices where they can have access to a full service of office facilities, internet access, boardrooms if needed, and this particular place even lovelier, lunch from a gorgeous cafe. I'm joined now by the CEO of Workshop 17, Mr. Paul Kirsten, who's just going to give us a little bit more about the business as well as how it's been since lockdown. But first, before I get there, Paul, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Can you give us your reflections on level 2 now?
I think level 2 will help people get out a little bit more and just give it some trust and faith that you can go out. I think people have been dying to meet other people, but still a bit scared, and springtime, vaccination and level 2 will give them a little bit more confidence. For us as a business, also more opportunity to host events and meetings, because that is part of what we do. As you said, there's boardrooms, but there's also spaces like we are now, where people can gather. And it's important to do that in a safe space, so we have everything in place for that. But we're prepared to now welcome people again to meet in person, to have events in a very safe but social and human environment.
A lot of the businesses that come here are looking for the affordability and flexibility and structure that is associated with the business without having to rent huge spaces and corporate offices from larger property companies. How have you found businesses have fared through this pandemic? Are your bookings still full?
Yes, I think we've become very popular, luckily, in the last months. I think one thing that the COVID has done is people need for flexibility. No one really knows the security anymore. We don't know how South Africa will fare. Many businesses have gone through turmoil. Don't know will they grow, will they shrink. And COVID, obviously, and health considerations have been to the fore, combined with the work-life balance of people. So what kind of environment do we need? And flexibility is really one thing. Access to a space very close to home, and access to a space that feels almost like a home, that you feel welcome and you feel human instead of just someone who produces output. So I think that's come now to the fore, and people are starting to look different as a workplace, different from before. It needs to be something that you get inspired, where you can build culture, where there's human connection, where you get ideas or openings that you don't get working from the home. And you need to have the comfort that you sometimes don't have at the kitchen table, where the cleaning happens, the kids were doing homeschooling, the dogs were around, and there's load shedding. So that security of being able to focus on what you do, for smaller companies, also big companies, that is what we provide. We provide the service so that people don't have to bother about the internet or the HVAC. They can come to us if there's a problem, and they focus on what their business is about.
It would be remiss of me not to ask you about how your business is now navigating vaccinations and COVID-19 pandemic going forward. Now that more people are allowed to be in these offices, how do you have that conversation with customers to say, perhaps be vaccinated before you walk in our doors?
Yeah. So in all locations we have a community manager who's in personal touch with all our members. But as a base we have all the strict COVID procedures in place. Mask wearing like we're doing now. People can't walk around without a mask, social distancing, so we take very good care of that. especially after more than a year with the virus. People get tired of it, and you sometimes forget. So it's good to have someone do that. The vaccination process is now started, and we hope that everyone will vaccinate. But we are not in power with the members that are our clients, they're not our staff. So it requires conversations, and we listen. Some members are asking us about it, and we need to navigate that quite carefully, because there is this individual choice, but there's also the effect that you have on others and how you put others at risk. So we will stimulate everyone to vaccinate. We can't force everyone. So it's mainly about the conversation, about being mindful, instead of trying to put the law out, which if we wanted to, we really can't, because we're not in the position to do.
You have 6 locations across the country right now that operate like this co-working space, but you have plans to expand. Does that mean you see a future where nobody goes back to an office in the traditional sense and you put property developers out of work?
No, but I think the spaces that we do is called flexible workspaces. I think it's now for everyone. It's the clients that we are getting are international companies, corporates are coming to us, because the workspace is becoming dispersed. So if you have a lot of people working in a suburb, instead of coming to the office every day, they're allowed to work from home or close to home. So that's the second place. But many corporates are also looking at, do we really need to have all these locations? Or do we tap into office as a service, like we are offering, instead of office as almost something that you need to manage yourself? You need facility management, you need IT, you need all that stuff, security, hosting. Why bother with that? And instead of managing yourself, choose an organization or environment where it's done for you, and you still have the flexibility. But if you have your own office, it usually comes with commitments over long term. And that is really why I think what we do becomes almost mainstream. And if we are building a network of spaces in the major nodes, but also in nodes where people live, with the idea that we have a co-working space or Workshop 17 close to where they live. People don't have to sit in traffic 1.5 hours, get more of their life back, but still have a professional work environment they can tap into. And I think that's the future, not only for us, also other providers, but also landlords who really not our competitors, they're our partners. We work in agreements with landlords to actually provide what is needed now in the market, and it's something different than it was 10 years ago.
Paul, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
That was Paul Kirsten, the CEO of Workshop 17 here in Rosebank. As you heard him mentioning how people are really looking for a different kind of working environment, not just as a result of COVID-19, but these discussions were starting before COVID, but COVID has accelerated people's needs to have a much more flexible workspace. There are several different kinds of companies that are here, from communications companies to NGOs to large major banks and businesses, and we'll explore more of that as we go out throughout the day for you.
Kopano Gumbi, thank you very much for that update.